Leviathan, the main opponent of the Megalodon, the discovery of the beast. In the vast arid expanse of the Ica Desert in southern Peru, the winds carry the dust of millions of years. This region, known to paleontologists as the Pisco Formation, is a treasure trove of marine fossils, a window into a time when these dry sands were the floor of a thriving, nutrient-rich ocean. It was here, in November 2008, that a discovery was made that would fundamentally alter our understanding of the prehistoric oceans and the hierarchy of apex predators that once ruled them. A team of researchers from the Natural History Museum of Rotterdam, along with colleagues from Peru, France, and Italy, stumbled upon the remains of a creature that defied immediate classification. Protruding from the sedimentary rock was a skull of colossal proportions, bearing teeth so large they resembled the tusks of elephants, more than the dentition of a whale. This was not merely another fossil. It was a monster. The creature was scientifically described in 2010 and given a name that echoed through literature and mythology: Leviathan melvillei. The genus name, Leviathan, is derived from the Hebrew word for Leviathan, the biblical sea monster referenced in the Book of Job. The species name, Melvillei, honors Herman Melville, the author of Moby Dick, paying tribute to the literary giant who immortalized the sperm whale as a force of nature. However, unlike the fictional white whale, which was pursued by Captain Ahab, Leviathan was not a passive giant or a bottom-feeding suction feeder. It was a hypercarnivore, a raptorial whale that possessed the largest biting teeth of any animal known to science, living or extinct. Its discovery immediately placed it in direct opposition to the other ruler of the Miocene seas, the otodus Megalodon. For decades, the Megalodon was considered the undisputed king of the prehistoric ocean. The arrival of Leviathan suggested a different narrative, one of a bipolar superpower system where a giant shark and a giant whale may have contested the title of the ultimate apex predator, the Miocene stage. To understand the magnitude of Leviathan and its rivalry with Megalodon, one must first understand the world they inhabited. The epoch was the Miocene, specifically the middle to late Miocene, ranging roughly from 12 to 5 million years ago. This was a period of significant climatic and geographical transition. The world was warmer than it is today, though it was beginning a slow cooling trend that would eventually lead to the ice ages of the Pleistocene. The oceans were high, creating vast, shallow seas that teemed with life. The circulation of ocean currents was different, driven by the open Central American Seaway, which allowed water to flow freely between the Atlantic and the Pacific. This global conveyor belt of warm water fueled a boom in marine biodiversity. The Miocene is often referred to as the Golden Age of whales. While modern oceans are dominated by a few species of large filter-feeding baleen whales and the deep-diving sperm whale, the Miocene oceans were crowded with a bizarre and diverse array of cetaceans. There were small to medium-sized baleen whales known as cedotheriids, long-snouted dolphins, and ancient relatives of the river dolphins. This abundance of blubber and protein provided the fuel for the evolution of gigantism in predators. In ecology, the size of a predator is often dictated by the size and availability of its prey. With the ocean filled with slow-moving, energy-rich whales, the evolutionary pressure favored predators that could take down such massive game. It was an arms race of size and power. Into this arena stepped the Megalodon, a shark that had been growing larger over millions of years, and the raptorial sperm whales, the lineage that would produce Leviathan. Taxonomy and evolution. Leviathan melvillei belongs to the superfamily Phaceteroidea, the group that includes the modern sperm whale, Phaceter macrocephalus, and the pygmy and dwarf sperm whales. However, the family tree of sperm whales is far more complex and violent than the modern representatives suggest. Today, the sperm whale is a specialized suction feeder. It dives to crushing depths to hunt squid, using a specialized mouth with teeth only on the lower jaw. These teeth are not used for tearing flesh, but for grasping slippery prey. Leviathan represents a different branch of this family tree, often referred to as the macroraptorial sperm whales. This extinct lineage retained functional enamel-coated teeth in both the upper and lower jaws. These were not ancestors of the modern sperm whale, but rather cousins that evolved to fill a different ecological niche. While the ancestors of the modern sperm whale went deep to find food, the ancestors of Leviathan stayed near the surface to hunt other marine mammals. This evolutionary path required significant adaptations. Hunting a squid requires endurance and diving capacity. Hunting a whale requires explosive power, a crushing bite, and the ability to withstand the violent struggles of prey that is nearly as large as the predator itself. Leviathan was the culmination of this evolutionary experiment. It was the largest of the raptorial sperm whales, representing the physical limit of how large a hunting whale could grow before the laws of thermodynamics and biomechanics yielded diminishing returns. Anatomy of a killer. The most striking feature of Leviathan melvillei is its skull. The holotype skull measures 3 meters in length. To put this in perspective, the skull of a large Tyrannosaurus rex is approximately 1.5 meters long. Leviathan had a head twice the size of the most famous dinosaur predator. Based on the skull size and comparisons with modern sperm whales, paleontologists estimate the total body length of Leviathan to be between 13.5 and 17.5 meters. This places it in the same size range as the modern adult male sperm whale, and, crucially, in the same size bracket as the Megalodon. However, it is the teeth that truly distinguish Leviathan. In the modern sperm whale, the teeth are relatively small and confined to the lower jaw. In Leviathan, the teeth are present in both jaws and are deeply rooted in massive, robust jawbones. The largest tooth recovered measures 36 centimeters in length and 12 centimeters in diameter. This is larger than the teeth of the Megalodon and larger than the teeth of any other known predator. These were not serrated cutting teeth like those of a shark or a tyrannosaur. They were thick, conical spikes designed for piercing and holding. This dentition suggests a feeding strategy known as grip and shear. The whale would ram its prey, clamp its massive jaws onto the body of a smaller whale, and use its powerful neck muscles and body weight to tear off chunks of flesh or break the spine of its victim. The skull also features a large basin on the dorsal surface, known as the supracranial basin. In modern sperm whales, this basin holds the spermaceti organ, a massive reservoir of oil and wax involved in echolocation and buoyancy control. The presence of this basin in Leviathan indicates that it too possessed a spermaceti organ. This organ would have served multiple functions. Firstly, it likely allowed Leviathan to echolocate, using sound waves to detect prey in the murky waters of the Miocene Ocean. This gave it a sensory advantage over sharks, which rely on smell and electroreception. Secondly, the organ may have been used as a battering ram. The hypothesis of acoustic stunning, where the whale projects a blast of sound so powerful it stuns prey, has also been proposed, although it remains controversial in scientific circles. Biomechanics and bite force. Determining the bite force of an extinct animal involves complex mathematical modeling and comparison with living analogs. For Leviathan, the robust nature of the temporal fossa, the area where the jaw muscles attach, suggests an immense volume of adductor musculature. While the Megalodon is often cited as having the strongest bite force of all time, estimated at up to 180,000 newtons, Leviathan was not far behind and may have operated differently. The structure of the Leviathan jaw indicates a bite force that was potentially lower in raw pressure than the Megalodon, but mechanically more stable for thrashing. A shark bite is designed to excise flesh. The teeth are serrated like steak knives, and the shark shakes its head to saw through meat. The bite of Leviathan was different. The interlocking conical teeth acted like a vice. Once Leviathan bit down, escape was impossible. The bite was designed to crush bone and rupture organs. The sheer structural integrity of the skull suggests it could withstand immense torsional stress. This is significant because hunting other whales is dangerous. A panicked baleen whale can thrash with tremendous force. The skull of Leviathan was built to absorb this kinetic energy without fracturing. Biomechanical studies using finite element analysis on similar raptorial whales suggest that their skulls were over-engineered for the loads they encountered, pointing to a lifestyle of extreme physical violence. The rivalry. The concept of the rivalry between Leviathan and Megalodon is the subject of intense scientific curiosity and popular fascination. Did they fight? Did they ignore each other? Did they eat each other? The fossil record does not provide a direct smoking gun, such as a Megalodon tooth embedded in a Leviathan bone, but the circumstantial evidence for competition is strong. Both predators existed in the same locations at the same time. Fossils of both have been found in the Pisco Formation of Peru, as well as potentially overlapping ranges in parts of the Pacific and Atlantic. They were the only two predators in their ecosystem capable of taking down medium-sized baleen whales. This defines them as competitors. In ecology, when two apex predators share the same food source, they engage in what is known as interference competition. This can take the form of kleptoparasitism, where one predator steals the kill of another, or direct aggression to eliminate a rival. Given the size and weaponry of both animals, a physical confrontation would have been fatal for one or both parties. Megalodon had the advantage of a wider gape and serrated teeth that could inflict massive blood loss in seconds. It was a stealth hunter, likely attacking from below to cripple its prey. Leviathan, being a mammal, had the advantage of intelligence, echolocation, and social behavior. Modern killer whales and sperm whales operate in pods. If Leviathan hunted in groups, even small ones, the balance of power would shift dramatically in their favor. A single Megalodon would struggle against a coordinated attack by 2 or 3 adult Leviathan. Conversely, a solitary Leviathan, perhaps a juvenile or an old male, would be vulnerable to a large female Megalodon. The dynamic was likely similar to that of lions and hyenas on the savanna, a constant, tense war of attrition where numbers, health, and surprise dictated the winner. Metabolism and endothermy. One of the critical factors in this rivalry is physiology. Leviathan was a marine mammal, meaning it was fully endothermic, or warm-blooded. It maintained a constant high body temperature, which allowed for sustained bursts of activity and rapid processing of information. This comes at a cost. A high metabolic rate requires huge amounts of food. Leviathan would have needed to hunt frequently to fuel its massive body. Megalodon, on the other hand, was a lamniform shark. Modern relatives like the great white and the mako possess regional endothermy, where they can keep their eyes, brain, and swimming muscles warmer than the surrounding water. It is highly probable that Megalodon shared this trait, making it a mesotherm. While more energetic than a cold-blooded reptile, it likely did not possess the same stamina as the fully warm-blooded Leviathan. This difference in metabolism suggests different hunting strategies. Megalodon was likely an explosive ambush predator, relying on a single devastating strike. Leviathan, with its mammalian endurance, could likely pursue prey over longer distances and engage in prolonged battles. The issue of oxygen is also paramount. Leviathan breathed air. This forced it to return to the surface, a vulnerability that a bottom-attacking shark could exploit. However, it also meant Leviathan was not restricted by the oxygen levels of the water. In hypoxic dead zones where fish might struggle, Leviathan could operate freely as long as it could hold its breath. Conversely, the need to surface tethers the whale to the interface of air and water, limiting its vertical maneuvering during a fight. Dietary preferences. The primary food source for both giants was the cedotheriids. These small baleen whales, ranging from 5 to 10 meters long, were abundant, slow, and rich in blubber. Fossil evidence from the Miocene shows cedotheriid bones with bite marks that match the spacing and shape of both Megalodon and raptorial sperm whale teeth. This proves that they were targeting the same prey items. However, niche partitioning may have occurred to reduce direct conflict. Perhaps Megalodon focused on larger, slower baleen whales, while Leviathan targeted slightly smaller, more agile prey, or vice versa. Another possibility is temporal partitioning, where one hunted by day and the other by night. Though the sensory capabilities of both, echolocation for the whale, electroreception, and low-light vision for the shark, suggest they were both effective at all hours. The most likely scenario is that they were direct competitors, who simply tried to avoid each other when possible, but clashed when resources were scarce or when a kill was contested. The social aspect. The social structure of Leviathan is a matter of speculation, but inferences can be made from modern relatives. Sperm whales are highly social animals. Females and calves live in matrilineal pods, while adult males are often solitary or form bachelor groups. If Leviathan followed this pattern, it would have had profound implications for its interaction with Megalodon. A pod of Leviathan females protecting a calf would represent a formidable force that no shark, no matter how large, would attack lightly. The brain size of Leviathan, while not as large relative to body size as modern delphinids, was still mammalian. This implies a capacity for learning, complex communication, and coordinated tactics. They likely had a culture, distinct dialects of clicks and calls, and a generational memory of where to find food and which areas to avoid. This intelligence is a weapon. While Megalodon was undoubtedly a sophisticated hunter with millions of years of instinct, it lacked the problem-solving capabilities of a cetacean. In a complex environment, the ability to adapt behavior, coordinate a flanking maneuver, or communicate a threat instantly to kin gives the mammal a distinct tactical edge. The extinction of the Titans. The reign of Leviathan and Megalodon did not last forever. By the early Pliocene, roughly 3.6 million years ago, both of these titans vanished from the fossil record. Their extinction was not caused by a single catastrophic event like an asteroid impact, but by a slow, inexorable shift in the global environment. The Earth continued to cool. The polar ice caps expanded, locking up water and lowering sea levels. The Central American Seaway closed, cutting off the flow of warm water between the oceans and disrupting the global currents. This cooling had a devastating effect on the base of the food chain. The productivity of the oceans dropped. The diversity of the small baleen whales, the cedotheriids, collapsed. They were replaced by fewer but much larger species of baleen whales, the ancestors of the blue and fin whales we see today. These new whales were gigantic, faster, and migrated to the polar regions to feed in the cold, nutrient-rich waters. This shift was a death sentence for Leviathan and Megalodon. As tropical predators, they were metabolically tethered to warmer waters. They could not follow the new giant whales into the freezing polar seas. Their food source literally swam away to a place they could not go. Furthermore, the prey that remained in the tropics was scarce. The large size that had been their greatest asset became their greatest liability. A 50-ton body requires a massive amount of calories to maintain. As prey density dropped, the giant starved. Leviathan likely suffered an additional pressure: the evolution of the killer whale, or Canis orca. While early orcas were small, they were rapidly evolving into the pack-hunting wolves of the sea. They were smaller, more efficient, and more adaptable than the monolithic Leviathan. They could survive on smaller prey and reproduce faster. The niche of the whale killer was passed from the giant raptorial sperm whale to the smaller, faster, and more social dolphin, the legacy of Leviathan. The discovery of Leviathan melville has forced a rewrite of the history of marine mammals. It proved that sperm whales were not always the deep-diving squid eaters we know today. For millions of years, they were the dominant surface predators, the rulers of the horizontal ocean rather than the vertical one. It highlights the plasticity of cetacean evolution, the ability of these animals to radically change their anatomy and behavior in response to ecological opportunities. The existence of Leviathan also changes our perception of Megalodon. The shark was not an invincible monster ruling a kingdom of fearful prey. It lived in a dangerous world, sharing the water with a creature that was its equal in size and perhaps its superior in intelligence. The Miocene Ocean was a place of terrifying symmetry, where the two greatest marine predators in history patrolled the same waters, perhaps eyeing each other across the blue abyss, measuring the risk, and acknowledging a mutual, deadly respect. In the popular imagination, the shark has always been the ultimate villain. But Leviathan reminds us that mammals, our own distant kin, produced a monster just as terrifying. With its 3-meter skull and teeth the size of artillery shells, Leviathan stands as a testament to the power of nature to push biological limits. It is the Moby Dick of reality, a creature that lived, hunted, and died in the mysterious oceans of the deep past, leaving behind only its bones to tell the story of a time when leviathans truly swam the earth. Paleoecology of the Pisco Formation. To fully grasp the life of Leviathan, we must return to the Pisco Formation. This geological setting provides the context for its daily existence. The sediments here are diatomaceous, formed from the microscopic shells of diatoms, indicating an area of immense primary productivity. Upwelling currents brought cold, nutrient-rich water from the depths to the surface, fueling a bloom of plankton. This plankton fed krill and small fish, which in turn fed the cetotheriids, seals, penguins, and marine sloths that inhabited the area. Yes, marine sloths. Thalassocnus was a genus of sloth that adapted to life in the sea, grazing on seagrasses in the shallow waters. The presence of such bizarre fauna indicates an ecosystem that was vibrant and packed with specific niches. Leviathan would have cruised these waters, a dark shadow moving through the green haze. The fossil record of the Pisco Formation is exceptional in its preservation. It allows us to reconstruct not just the animals, but the interactions between them. We find sharks with dolphin bones in their stomachs. We find whales with healed rib fractures, evidence of failed attacks. In this crowded environment, Leviathan was the regulator. By preying on medium-sized whales, it prevented any single species from monopolizing the resources. Its presence influenced the migration patterns and behavior of every other animal in the region. The fear of Leviathan would have driven the evolution of faster swimming speeds and better sensory systems in prey species. This is the concept of the Centonada, landscape of fear, where the mere presence of a top predator dictates the structure of the entire ecosystem. Comparative dentition and feeding mechanics. The teeth of Leviathan deserve a closer look from a functional morphology perspective. In carnivorous mammals, teeth are usually differentiated into incisors, canines, and molars. This is known as heterodonty. However, Leviathan, like modern toothed whales, possessed homodont dentition. All teeth were roughly the same shape. This is a simplification associated with aquatic feeding. You don't need to chew your food if you are swallowing huge chunks whole. However, the wear patterns on the teeth of raptorial sperm whales tell a story. Some specimens show heavy wear on the tips, indicating contact with bone. This confirms the hypothesis that they were crunching through the skeletal structure of their prey. Unlike the modern orca, which often drowns large whales or tears at soft tissue like lips and tongues, Leviathan likely used a more brute force approach. The skull anatomy allowed for a shearing action. When the jaws closed, the teeth interlocked, creating a continuous wall of enamel. Any flesh or bone caught between them was severed. This feeding style is energy intensive, generating the bite force required to crush a whale skull requires massive temporal muscles. The space in the skull for these muscles was vast. This made the head of Leviathan extremely heavy. To compensate, the neck vertebrae were fused or highly compressed to provide a stable platform for the head. This reduced the range of motion of the head, but increased the stability, a necessary trade-off for a predator that uses its head as a weapon. The sensory world of the raptor whale. We have touched upon echolocation, but the sensory world of Leviathan was likely a rich tapestry of sound. Water conducts sound 5 times faster than air. For a whale, vision is secondary. The ocean is often dark and turbid. Sound is the primary medium of perception. The spermaceti organ acts as an acoustic lens, focusing the sound waves generated by the phonic lips near the blowhole. In modern sperm whales, these clicks can be incredibly loud, up to 230 decibels, loud enough to vibrate a human body to the point of fatal heating if close enough. Leviathan likely possessed similar capabilities. It could see the internal structure of its prey with sound. It could detect the heartbeat of a hiding whale or the density of a bone. This acoustic dominance meant there was no hiding from Leviathan. Camouflage was useless. Darkness was irrelevant. This contrasts sharply with Megalodon. Sharks possess the ampullae of Lorenzini, jelly-filled pores that detect the weak electric fields generated by muscle contractions. Megalodon could sense the heartbeat of a hiding prey item in the sand. Thus, both predators had X-ray capabilities, but based on different physics. The shark used electricity, the whale used sound. This evolutionary convergence highlights the difficulty of hiding in the ocean and the extreme lengths predators go to in order to find food. The Great Divergence. The lineage of Leviathan offers a fascinating glimpse into the divergence of whale evolution. About 30 million years ago, the ancestors of modern cetaceans split into 2 groups, the odontocetes, toothed whales, and the mysticetes, baleen whales. The odontocetes further split into various families. The facetoroids, sperm whales, were among the first to diversify. For a long time, it was believed that the large raptorial teeth were the primitive condition, and that the modern sperm whale's lack of upper teeth was a specialized adaptation. The discovery of Leviathan and other intermediate fossils suggests that this raptorial lifestyle was a highly successful, long-lasting evolutionary strategy. It wasn't a primitive phase. It was a dominant mode of life that lasted for over 20 million years. The fact that it is gone today is an anomaly in the history of the Earth, not the rule. We live in a time unusual for its lack of giant raptorial whales. The closest analog we have today is the orca, but even the largest orca is a fraction of the size of Leviathan. The niche of the megaraptor remains vacant. The great white shark, while formidable, does not reach the sizes of the Miocene giants. The oceans of today are safer, quieter, and less violent than those of the past. The fossilization bias. One must also consider the rarity of these fossils. We only have one good skull of Leviathan. Why? Fossilization is a rare event. An animal must die in the right place, be covered by sediment quickly, and remain undisturbed for millions of years. Large animals are rare to begin with. A distinct population of apex predators is always small compared to herbivores. Therefore, finding a top predator is statistically unlikely. The fact that we found Leviathan suggests that they might have been reasonably common in their range, or we got incredibly lucky. It also suggests that there may be other, even stranger giants hiding in the rock record, waiting to be found. The ocean is vast, and our window into the past is small. Leviathan melvillei might just be the tip of the iceberg of a diverse radiation of monster whales that we are only just beginning to understand. Comparisons with other prehistoric marine reptiles. To appreciate the scale of Leviathan, it is useful to compare it to the marine reptiles of the Mesozoic, the era of dinosaurs. The pliosaurs, such as Pliosaurus funke, Predator X, and the mosasaurs, such as Mosasaurus hoffmanii, were the apex predators of their times. Mosasaurus reached lengths of up to 17 meters, similar to Leviathan. However, the body plan was different. Mosasaurs were long, slender, eel-like lizards. Leviathan was a robust, barrel-chested mammal. The mass of Leviathan would have likely exceeded that of the largest mosasaurs. A whale body is dense, filled with blubber and heavy bones. A reptile is generally more gracile. This means that in a hypothetical confrontation, Leviathan would have a mass advantage. Furthermore, the metabolic engine of the mammal gives it a distinct edge in sustained power output. The marine reptiles were likely mesotherms, but the high-octane physiology of a cetacean is in a league of its own. Leviathan represents the peak of marine predator evolution, the combination of the largest size possible with the highest metabolic rate possible, cultural impact, and the sea monster archetype. Since its discovery, Leviathan has captured the public imagination. It appears in documentaries, video games, and paleo art. It fulfills the human need for monsters. We are fascinated by things that can eat us. The idea of a whale that eats other whales resonates with the dark, sublime terror of the ocean. It validates the myths of sea monsters that have existed in every maritime culture. The specific choice of the name Leviathan connects science with theology and literature. It bridges the gap between the empirical study of bones and the poetic understanding of the sublime. When Melville wrote Moby Dick, he was reaching for a metaphor for the unconquerable forces of nature/God. In Leviathan melvillei, science provided a physical embodiment of that metaphor. It is a creature that demands awe. In educational contexts, Leviathan serves as a perfect hook to get students interested in paleontology. It is cooler than a dinosaur to many because it is a whale, an animal we think we know, twisted into a nightmare shape. It teaches concepts of evolution, climate change, and ecology in a package that is undeniably metal. Methodology of size estimation. How do scientists know how big it was? The estimation of Leviathan's size is based on the bizygomatic width of the skull, the width across the cheekbones. In modern sperm whales, there is a consistent ratio between this skull width and total body length. By measuring the Leviathan skull and applying this ratio, we get the 13.5 to 17.5 meter range. However, this assumes Leviathan had the same body proportions as a modern sperm whale. This is a safe, but not certain assumption. Perhaps Leviathan had a larger head relative to its body, or shorter tail. If it had a shorter, stockier body, it might have been lighter. If it was more elongated, it might have been longer. Until we find a complete skeleton, these numbers remain educated estimates. But even at the lower end of the estimate, it is a titan. The future of research. The study of Leviathan is ongoing. Researchers are returning to the Pisco Formation and exploring other Miocene sites in Chile, Australia, and California, looking for more material. New technologies like 3D scanning and isotopic analysis are being applied to the existing fossils. Isotopic analysis of the teeth can tell us about the diet and migration patterns. By measuring the ratio of oxygen isotopes, scientists can determine the temperature of the water the animal lived in. By measuring carbon isotopes, they can infer where it fed in the food web. We are also looking for the postcranial skeleton, the ribs, vertebrae, and flippers. Finding these would answer questions about its swimming style. Did it have large flippers for maneuvering? Did it have a dorsal fin? The artistic reconstructions show a dorsal fin, but we don't actually know if it had one. Modern sperm whales have a dorsal hump, not a true fin. Conclusion: the king of the Miocene. In the final analysis, Leviathan melville stands as one of the most impressive animals to ever evolve. It was a product of a unique set of geological and climatic conditions that created a world of giants. It was the main opponent of the Megalodon, checking the power of the giant shark and sharing the throne of the apex predator. Its existence illuminates the incredible potential of the mammalian body plan. From small, hoofed ancestors that walked into the water 50 million years ago, evolution crafted a 50-ton, intelligent, bone-crushing super predator. The story of Leviathan is a story of success, of a lineage that seized an opportunity and maximized it to the limit of biological possibility. While it is gone, its legacy remains in the rocks of the Peruvian desert and in the lineage of the cetaceans that survive today. As we look at the modern ocean, depleted and warming, the story of Leviathan serves as a reminder of what the Earth is capable of sustaining and what is lost when the delicate balance of the climate is tipped. It was a monster, yes, but a magnificent one. The Leviathan of the deep, the true rival of the Megalodon, and the ruler of the golden age of whales. Geological implications of the Pisco Basin. The preservation of Leviathan is intimately tied to the unique geology of the Pisco Basin. This sedimentary basin extends for hundreds of kilometers along the Pacific coast of South America. The preservation quality is termed Lagerstätte, a German word used by paleontologists to denote sites of exceptional fossil preservation. In the Pisco Formation, we don't just find bones. We find baleen, fossilized stomach contents, and even shadows of soft tissue. This exceptional preservation is due to the rapid burial of carcasses. The high sedimentation rate, driven by the constant rain of diatom shells and detritus from the productive waters above, meant that dead animals were quickly covered, protecting them from scavengers and physical erosion. For Leviathan, this means that the skull we have is remarkably undistorted. Many fossils are crushed flat by millions of years of pressure. The Leviathan skull retains its three-dimensional shape, allowing for accurate reconstruction of the brain cavity and sinus passages. This geological context also helps date the specimen accurately. Layers of volcanic ash are interbedded with the marine sediments. These ash layers can be dated using radiometric dating methods, specifically argon-argon dating, providing precise timestamps. This is how we know Leviathan lived around 9.9 to 8.9 million years ago, in the Tortonian stage of the late Miocene. This precise dating is crucial for establishing its temporal overlap with Megalodon, the facetoroid gap. Before the discovery of Leviathan, there was a significant gap in our understanding of sperm whale evolution. We had primitive, small sperm whales from the Oligocene, And we had the modern specialized forms. We had a few medium-sized raptorial forms like Brigmophyseter and Zygophyseter, but nothing that approached the size of the modern sperm whale. Leviathan filled this gap, proving that gigantism appeared in this lineage long before the modern era. This challenges the Cope's rule, a biological hypothesis stating that animal lineages tend to increase in body size over evolutionary time. While true for some, the sperm whales achieved maximum size early in the Miocene with Leviathan, then seemingly shrank or maintained size while changing niches. It shows that evolution is not a straight line toward bigger and better, but a branching bush, where size is selected for or against depending on the ecological pressures of the moment. The mechanics of the jaw lock, detailed analysis of the jaw joint, the temporomandibular joint, of Leviathan, reveals features adapted to resist dislocation. When a predator bites a large, struggling animal, the forces trying to rip the jaw sideways are immense. The condyle, the hinge of the jaw, in Leviathan is shaped to lock firmly into the skull, preventing lateral movement while allowing a wide gape. This stability reinforces the grip and shear hypothesis. It suggests that Leviathan did not let go. Once it made contact, it held on, using its weight to drown or bleed the prey. This contrasts with the quote, and retreat tactic often attributed to sharks. Leviathan was a brawler. The fused mandibular symphysis, where the two halves of the lower jaw meet, is another adaptation for strength. In many mammals, this joint is unfused. In Leviathan, it is a solid wall of bone, turning the lower jaw into a single unbreakable unit. Ecological impact of extinction. The disappearance of Leviathan and Megalodon had a release effect on other marine lineages. With the top predators gone and the cetiotheriids dying out, the stage was set for the rise of the modern giants. The baleen whales were able to grow to sizes exceeding 30 meters, like the blue whale, partly because they no longer had to deal with predation pressure from macroraptorial killers. Being a 30-meter whale in a younger ocean with Leviathan would be difficult. You are a massive target. But in the Pliocene and Pleistocene, size became a refuge. No predator existed that could tackle a full-grown blue whale. Thus, the extinction of the hunters allowed the prey to become titans. We owe the existence of the gentle giants of today to the death of the violent giants of yesterday. Closing thoughts on the rivalry. Ultimately, the rivalry between Leviathan and Megalodon is a narrative device we use to frame the past, but it reflects a biological reality. Two dominant species cannot occupy the exact same niche indefinitely, Gauss's law of competitive exclusion. They partitioned the ocean, fought for resources, and ruled as co-monarchs. Their story is a humbling reminder of the transience of dominance. For millions of years, they were the absolute masters of their world. Nothing could touch them. And yet, they are gone, reduced to mineralized calcium in a desert and teeth in a collector's cabinet. It underscores the vulnerability of apex predators to environmental change. The mightiest fall the hardest when the world changes beneath them. Leviathan melvii remains the definitive proof that the whale, an animal we associate with peace and intelligence, once bore the teeth of a dragon and ruled the seas with an iron jaw.